Hey, everybody. Hope everyone's having the most wonderful day. Welcome to another day of the free web development bootcamp. My name is Ramon, and it's great to see you all. What a couple of weeks it's been. I'd love to check in. How's everybody feeling? How's the bootcamp going for you? What have you learned that really surprised you? I'd love to hear a little bit about it while I do a little bit of housekeeping. So let's get started. Oh, good morning, everyone, and good day. Hello. Good to see y'all. So, yeah, if you're joining in for the first time and you're like, oh, this sounds really cool, is it too late to get started? Absolutely not. You are just in time because every time is the best time to join. Let me drop y'all a link here to info about the Web Development Bootcamp. There you go. It's taking a while to post. There it is. Hi, everybody. Yeah. So if you go to badwebsiteclub/webdevbootcampjan2024.html, you'll find all the info you need there in order to catch up, in order to review, in order to find the schedule, in order to find links. We're hanging out a lot on Discord, so if you want to join in the conversation there, please feel free. I'll drop a link for that. And I really love using Discord to see y'all, to ask questions, to answer questions. So please, if you'd like to get some feedback on your work, we just did our tribute page yesterday. If you want to see how that went for you and maybe get some feedback on it, please drop your link in there and we can have a look and give you some feedback. Yeah. And last part, very important, by joining this bootcamp, you're agreeing to uphold our code of conduct. We believe that having a safe, easy environment for everyone is the most important way to learn. So if you see anything out of sorts, please let us know. You can read up more about the code of conduct on bit.ly/BWC-COC. Hi, hello, everyone. Love to see everybody joining in. Okay, so let's just take a quick moment to review where we are now and where we'll be going next. So yesterday we did our tribute page. We got started with it. If you haven't finished it yet, don't worry. Remember, this is all self-paced. Remember that these are the certification projects that you need to do in order to finish this bootcamp and get your certification. What we're going to be doing today is talking about CSS pseudo selectors by building a balance sheet. I'm very excited about this because we're going to be using ways to style our HTML using very specific interactions, or as I said, pseudo selectors. And let's just jump right in real quick and see how it would look. So this is what we're going to be building today. As usual, we're going to be getting as far as we can, and then I'm going to leave you all with some homework. Good morning from Nicaragua. Good morning to you, Carlos. Good to see you. Yeah, so we've got a table here with a balance sheet. It's got some assets. You can see we've got some rows of data. Ooh, some changes when we hover. Got some liabilities, some more hovering. Yeah, that's what we're going to be building today. And let's take a moment just to get a feel for what pseudo selectors are, because believe it or not, you might have missed this. If not, totally cool. Lots of folks from Nicaragua love it. You've already used a little bit of CSS pseudo selectors, and I've built a little example here in CodePen that we could take a look at. If you haven't used CodePen yet, it's really cool because it lets me just draft up some quick stuff that I can then share with y'all. So, Eric, that's very kind. Thank you for the feedback. Yeah, if there's anything you'd like to see, I realize we're learning so much, but don't worry, we're going to keep going through this together, and there's no rush. There's no signups. There's no mandatory attendance, no tests. Yeah, so let's see what we got here. I've got a div in our HTML. We can see it says HTML here, where we've got an ID of circle and no content in it. Here in the middle, we've got our CSS. So I've targeted the circle, the element with ID circle, and given it a few properties: height, width, both 200 pixels, a background color of red, and a border radius of 50%. That means it's going to be perfectly round if it's a square, which it is. Let's see what happens when I remove it. You can see it's a square. By making it 50% radius, now it's a circle. Then we've got this other CSS selector here called hover. Now, a pseudo selector is done by adding this colon or double point and then hover. Now, this will apply specific styles when we hover over this element, when our mouse hovers over it. Let's give it a try. So it'll set the background color to blue and the border radius to 0. Let's give it a try. So when I hover, you can see the background color is now blue and the border radius is 0. And this is how we can have pseudo selectors. And there's lots of pseudo selectors, and that's what we're going to be learning today in this exercise, which I'll go ahead and drop into the chat here. Cool. So you know what, friends? We're just going to dive right in. And a couple of these steps we've done several times, and I'm just going to quickly type them in. Doc, exclamation, doc type HTML. And I set our HTML with lang set to en, HTML. What else we got? We need our head and body. Body. Cool. Just going to move my microphone a little bit because it's a little bit in the way. There we go. Head element, give the head element our meta elements. So meta char set equals to UTF-8. And the other one is name equals viewport, and I've already forgotten the rest. So we're going to look it up. MDN, is it viewport? The viewport, I saw it. Viewport meta tag. I'm going to drop this link into the chat because I forget every time. Cool, there it is. Going to click on this button here to copy. I'm just going to replace this. Thought I might remember it this time, but I did not. Title set to be, let's call it balance sheet. And finally, link rel style sheet ref equals styles.css. And with that, I think we're done. Nope. What did I forgot? Oh. One meta element should have the name set to viewport, content set to width equals device width, initial scale. Oh, look, 1.0. Okay, very specific. My bad. Well, that looks better. Cool. We'll do a section element with a main, within a main element. Yep, Steven says it correctly. FCC wants 1.0, not 1. I've just demonstrated why you shouldn't just copy-paste post code without reading. Thank you for bearing with me. So there's our main and our section. Cool. Stuff we've done before. We can keep going. I'm going to go, I have an H1 with a nested span element. These are all empty with a nested span element. All done. Looks good. Cool. So you might get this pop-up. So we're doing this bootcamp for free, and Free Code Camp is also free, provided separately by their organization, and they depend on donations, but only if you can donate. I'm doing so myself, but in a learning account as opposed to this teaching account I've got here. So I'm going to click on Ask Me Later for now. So, we've got some stuff here. We'll eventually want the balance sheet to give a heading of balance sheet and a subheading of Acme Widget Corp. However, this order does not make sense if announced by a screen reader. So we're going to give our span the class attribute set to flex, and we're going to add 2 span elements within it. I'm going to copy paste because I'm lazy. Give the first one the text Acme Widget Corp, and the second one will have the text balance sheet. And we're going to use CSS to reverse the order of the text on the page, but the HTML order will make more sense for a screen reader. Cool. I remember how to do this. So I'm going to bring up my CSS. So we want these to be in reverse order. So we're going to do, well, what's it again? Our flex. So we're going to call .flex. And then we're going to have it be so that the display is set to flex. Doesn't change much, but I'm just excited about this. We're going to use flex direction. You all remember that from when we learned flexbox? And is it row reverse? Now it says balance sheet first and Acme Widget Corp second. And Stephen B is saying, I don't understand how that makes more or less sense for a screen reader. And that's a great point. Let's talk a little bit about what we've got going on here. So when we, the people using, when we in the preview are using this, are looking at this website, where we want to read balance sheet first and then Acme Widget Corp, right? Now let's look at their justification here. They want it so that when a screen reader reads it, it reads Acme Widget Corp first and balance sheet second. And we manipulate this with flex so that it's displayed in reverse order, but when it's read out by a screen reader, it's in the original order. So this order does not, so we want the balance sheet to have a heading of balance sheet with a subheading of Acme Widget Corp. However, this order does not make sense if announced by a screen reader. Why is that better? Why couldn't we just have balance sheet and then Acme Widget Corp? This order does not make sense if announced by a screen. So maybe what they want here is for the screen reader to first say, hey, who's the company? What's the company that we have a balance sheet for? And then what the document as well. Yeah, as Cesium says, I think they want it to always seem like Widget Corp balance sheet, and we're going to use CSS to move the text around to make it visually that way too. No, we just did. So now it's balance sheet followed by Acme Widget Corp. But for the screen reader, they wanted to have Acme Widget Corp first and then balance sheet. This is the requirement we were given, and I suppose we just want to display it in reverse order. And you're going to sometimes get it so that the CSS, sorry, the visuals and the markup or the order in which stuff is read to be in reverse order. And this is where Flexbox is really helpful. I'm going to come back to that though, because I want to think about it a little more. Not yet, says Kira. Okay. Below our H1 element, we'll create a div. I give it an ID set to years. Ooh. So we want this particular element to be hidden from screen reader. So we'll give it the area hidden attribute set to true. Cool. So if we want something to not be legible in a screen reader, we'll use this area hidden attribute and set its value to true. So whatever is in here, we're going to see in our page, but it's not going to show up in the screen reader. Super fair. Great thing is we don't need to write any CSS for that. So, okay, we're going to have 3 span elements here. Span. I'm just going to copy paste because I'm lazy. It's going to give each of them a class attribute set to year and add the following text. I should have copy pasted later. So year. Boop. Paste. So it's 2019, 2020, and 2021. 2019, 2020, and 2021. Cool. This is stuff we've done before. Nothing super new. Let's keep moving. Now we're going to add a new div, the class set to table wrap. And this will be a container for our tables. Cool. I'm excited. Oop. There we go. Close that div. And inside here, we're going to add 3 table elements. I believe this is our first time working with tables. So we'll be using CSS to style these into a single table, but using 3 separate tables will help screen readers understand the document flow. Fair enough. We'll see why when we've got the full table. Great. So I'm seeing some confusion around step 4. I'd say let's come back to it a little bit later on, since we want to focus on the pseudo selectors here. So HTML tables use a caption element to describe what the table's about. The caption element will always be the first child. It can be positioned with this caption side CSS property. So our first table is going to have the caption set to have the text assets. Now we don't see a table yet, we just see the caption. Later on, when we add this content, we'll see our tables. We'll see the contents of the table. Cool. So we got one table with a caption in it. I like to think of it as like the title of the table. So next we're going to add a T head and a T body. These are both elements specific to a table, if I could spell correctly. The first one is going to be the header. When you have a table, you'll have the first row dedicated to the headers, what type of data we're displaying in each column of our table. The second one's the body, and that one's going to indicate the data or the content in that table. And because the caption always has to go first, we place the T head and the T body below the caption. However, still no table. That's because we still haven't added any content yet. So we'll keep going. Next, we're going to add a TR element. TR. This, this element indicates a row in our table. T head indicates this is the section of our table, which is the header, and this indicates one row. Most tables are only going to have one row, and that's fine. Sorry, let me try that again. Most table headers are going to have one row, and that's fine. We still need to add our row for that. In our new TR element, we're going to add one TD element, followed by 3 TH elements. Cool. So 1 TD and 1 TH. So we've got 1 TD and 3 THs. We still don't see anything because we don't have any content. So right now our heading of our table is made up of one row, which is made up of 4 columns. The first one is a data cell. TD is for data, and H is for header. Now, usually you're going to see TH elements mostly within the table header. You can also have data in there. Still don't see anything because we still need to add content. So let's keep going. Looks good. Great. Now, in each of our THs, we're going to have a span with a class set to SR only year. We're going to give them the text 2019, 2020, and 2021. Let's do it. So again, in each of our THs, we're going to have a span with a class of SR only year. Oops, sorry about that. So span, close our span, and the class is going to be set to SR only. Can anybody guess what SR only might be? Year. And that's it. And each of the headers is going to have that class. So that span, sorry. So I'm just going to copy this. I'll give myself a little bit more space to work in. Yeah. That's one, and that's another. So we still, look at people. Amazing. Shubham says screen reader only. Rama says SR only stands for screen reader only. Yep. But remember, this is a class, we haven't styled it yet. So it is going to show up shortly. You're going to see. So inside we'll give them the years. So 2019, 2020, and 2021. 2019. Look, it's showing up. 2020 and 2021. So now we're starting to see our table show up. And you'll also notice that it's already got some pre-styling on it. For example, the text in the headers is bold or has a high font weight. Also, the caption appears to be centered on top of the table. How do we confirm this? Glad you ask. Let's use my good friend, background color debugging. Let's just give each table a background color of violet. And we can see, cool. Ooh. So this is interesting. Even though our table, let's go to our table real quick. Our table has a caption. The content or the background is only showing the contents of the table itself. So the caption is not included. Let's caption, oops, background color, blue. See, now that's interesting. The caption is positioned outside the table, even though it's contained in the table element. Sorry, that was a bit of a detour. I was just interested. Does this look good? Not yet. Our third element should have the class set to current. Look at me not reading correctly. Give your third th element the class attribute set to current. Oh, I forgot this. We'll leave the td empty. This element only exists to ensure that your table has a 4-column layout and associate the headers with the correct columns. We'll see what this means concretely once we start putting some more data in here. Th class is set to current. Doesn't change anything because we haven't styled it yet. There we go. So it's got three header columns and one data column that we can't see yet. I bet we'll see why shortly. Cool. So next up is our body. So our table body is going to have 4 tr elements. And do you remember what the difference between tr, td, and th is yet? This gets a little confusing, but you'll get used to it. So tr, we need 4 of those, right? So what does this tell us about our table? We're going to give the first 3 a class attribute set to data, and the fourth a class attribute set to total. Class data. 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 Yep, Rama says TR is for table row, TH is for table header. And what about TD? That's the last one. Total. So what this tells us about our table is that it has 4 rows of data. Well, 3 rows of data and a 4th data row of a total. However, there is a 5th row, which is the header. So there's 1 header row and 4 body rows. Don't see anything. We don't see anything because there's no content. Oh, Nikita, very good. Thank you. And 4 columns. Very, very well said. Thank you. Whew. Okay, we're covering a lot. We're learning tables and pseudo selectors. So in our first TR, we're going to add a TH element with the text cache. This is the cache we currently have on hand. Okay. Wrap all of the text except cache in a span element with a class set to description. Excuse me. So this is interesting. We've got a table header, but inside our data. Why am did I do something wrong? I forgot to put th. So inside our tr class, we're going to put a th. Cache, this is the cache we currently have on hand. So this is interesting. This is our body, but we're still adding a heading. Or a header, sorry. Header or heading. I think I'm going to go with header. This is because this first column, which remember it's a TD on top, is not actually displaying data, but what kind of data we're displaying for 2019, 2020, and 21. After that, we'll have 3 TD elements. TD. Let's copy paste that a couple times. 3. 1, 2, 3. So the first one is going to have $25. Second one's going to have $30. And the fourth one is going to have, the third one's going to have $28. And look at that. That's already populating our data. Last thing we want to do is give that last one a class set to current. That's one row. Our span element should include the class attribute set to description. My mistake. I have the span, but I forgot to give it the class of description. Amazing. A lot of the stuff we do in HTML as well is going to involve, for displaying our data, we're going to use a lot of tables. So it's a good idea to get comfortable with making tables in HTML. I'm going to do, speaking of getting comfortable, I'm going to be a little bit mean, and I'm going to skip a couple of these steps because for the next couple ones, we're still going to be making data rows. So I'm actually going to leave that for homework for y'all. I'm sorry to be so mean. I'm going to skip over to the fourth row. So I've skipped over from step 14 to 16 because what we've done here is just make a couple of rows. But for the last one, it's going to be a little bit different, I would imagine. We've got our TH of total assets. And we've got span with the class set to SR only for that assets part. That's screen reader only. And then after that, TH, we're going to have 3 TD elements. Oh, so actually it's not all too different. My bad. So there we go. And class for the third one is current. So, oopsie, $579, $736, and $809. 809. I put that in the wrong place again. I'll just cut and paste. Cool. That's the last one of our rows. Phew. Time to move on to our second table. But you know what, my friends? I'm going to continue being mean because we're not doing a whole lot with our tables right now. With Kira saying this is confusing. Absolutely hear you, Kira. Please tell me which part is confusing to you and we'll happily walk through it. Like, I'm sorry if I'm skipping too much. We can make the second table. We've got the time. I just thought it might be best to go right to the pseudo selectors. Just keep making our data here. Caption. Liabilities. Did I spell that correctly? Liabilities. Yeah. We'll add our T head and our T body. So just like before, table, caption, head, body. Perfect. Within our T head, we're going to add our table row, just like the last table. And this is going to be our header row. It's going to add the TD, followed by, wait, no, TH, not T head. There we go. 2, 3. Perfect. Oh, I love what Steven's saying here. Tables can be confusing. It's really easy to get lost in how to build them. I kept the example table open in a different tab to help me orient to what I was building step by step, which helped. That's a great tip. Thank you, Steven. So first row, 4 columns, just like the assets table. Looks good. Let's keep going. Cool. We can donate later. Remember, don't feel pressured to do it right away. So each th is going to have a span element with the class set to sr only. Oh yeah, remember this. Span class set to sr only. And each of them is going to have this text of 2019. Copy and paste because we're lazy. 21. So just like before, there's our rows, our columns in our header row. Amazing. Now I bet we're going to do the table row. We're going to have the first one set the attribute set to data and the fourth class set to total. Fantastic. Now you're seeing we're doing stuff we've seen before. 1, 2, 3, 4. First has a class of data. Whoop. Data, data, and total. And there we go. We still don't see anything. So, Cesium makes a great point. One thing that confuses me a lot is how many different tags there are for tables, all that looks similar. It can maybe help to write yourself a little note of like tr row, td cell, th heading cell. Yeah, table data and table row can be a little confusing. I try to go by the second letter always, like tr is a row, th is a header, and td is for data. I'll do one more step and then we'll go into the pseudo selectors. I do have to be a little mean. Cool. So you're going to recognize the structure for doing a single row. In our first tr, we're going to add a th element with the text loans the outstanding balance on of our startup loan. So paste that text in there. And for everything except for loans, we're going to have that span with the class set to description. T-span. Oh, Jessica makes such a good point. It's super common for these to be hard to parse. I really want to stress that we're learning a lot all at once. All of these concepts aren't going to click the first time. And I think that's a really important part. Cesium says, can we talk for a second about what the layout of a table is? Like how we break it down into rows first, and then the columns are made up the TDs inside the rows. That's a great point. Thank you, Cesium. And we can absolutely do that. And I'll tell you what we're going to do. Oh, can I click here? Oh, it shows me the website, but I kind of wanted to show it here on a single window. That's okay. Let's make the preview nice and big. And then I'm going to show you all the inspector, because I think this is going to be helpful. So I'm going to right click here and go on inspect. Okay. Now here we're looking at a single table, right? If I hover my mouse over table, you're going to see that it's highlighting all of the data here. Let me make this one touch bigger. So that's command. There, cool. So table encapsulates all of this. Our caption shows this part at the top. Then our table is divided into two parts. A table head, which we see here. Please, there we go. A table head, which we see here. And a table body, which we see down here. Now, when we build a table in HTML, we divide it into these two parts, which we then build one by one. Let's start with a head. Now, the way we build tables in HTML is we start with each row at a time. That's the tr element. So first we declare a row, and then we have a series of columns. These can be either TD or TH. The way to differentiate the two, D is for data, H is for header. So TD, H for a header. And the header is going to tell us, hey, what are we looking at in this column or row? So here we say, hey, we want to look at the data for the year 2019, 2020, 2021. That's the first row done. That's the table head done. Let's close that. And now look at the table body. Same thing as before. We go one by one, declaring rows. First row, second row, third row, fourth row. So once again, we have a TH column, which remember is going to denote a header. What are we looking at in this row? In this row, we're looking at cash. The next row, sorry, the next column, we have some data, $25. More data, $30. And the last piece of data, $28. That's one row done. Let's look at the next row. Data, TH, our heading, data, $54, $56, $53. And you see that one by one, we're building these rows and giving each of them a column for a piece of data or a cell. Last one, last row, we have our heading, which is a TH, and then our data, TD, 579, 736, 809. As Season very well puts it, there should always be a TD should always be inside a TR. Thank you so much. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. Where was I? Oh yeah, I was doing one more row for us for our second table. That's one TH done. Let's do 3 more. Whoops, just gonna make this a little bit larger so we have some more space to type. TD. Thank you for the idea, Cesium. So, in order. First, 500. Oh, let me copy paste that because I'm going to forget. 2, 3. So the first, no, the last one should have the class set to current. $500, $250, and $0. Class set to current. Does that look good? That's another row done. Oh, Mitch says, keep in mind that the table header TH can be used on top of columns and on the left side of rows. Extremely valid. Thank you so much, Mitch. Okay, does it look good? It looks good. So this is where I get a little bit evil. I'm going to skip ahead because we still haven't done any pseudo selectors. And I bet y'all are super excited to do them as I am. So I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit. Still doing some data here. And we're going to do our third table in step 25. Ooh, am I going to give us a bunch of homework? I might. Oh, okay. I skipped a little bit too far. So that's step 29. Let's go to step 28. Time to style our table. Amazing. Let's do it. So let's just take a quick step back and see what our tables look like. So we've got table 1 with assets, table 2 with liabilities, and then table 3 with net worth. Cool. So now we're going to style our tables. So first we're going to give an HTML selector here and set the box sizing to be border box. Y'all remember border box. So now the border is part of the size of a rectangle. Cool. We've done that before. We'll have a body selector, set the font family to be sans serif. Let's see how that changes things. Ooh. And set the color, that is the text color, to be a little bit of red, a little bit of green, and a little bit more of blue. It's a very dark gray. Amazing. Ooh, but we should start using our SR only class. So we can use CSS to make elements with this class completely hidden, but still be announced by screen readers. And the CSS we're about to write is a common set of properties to use to ensure elements are completely hidden visually. So what does visually mean here? Visually means that it's not going to show up when we look at it, but in a screen reader, it's going to be read out. So we're going to be using a special selector here for span. And we're going to use the square. Where's my square brackets? There they are. So class, where's my squiggly? There it is. Equals SR only. So this is going to select any span whose class includes SR only. But why includes? Why not just make it so it is? Well, it is possible that we might have classes like table-sr-only. So we're saying like, hey, if the text sort of matches SR only, if it contains that piece of text, that pattern in it, then we'll give it a border of 0. Now hold on. I didn't change anything, did it? I bet we're going to do some more in just a minute. Yeah, if you can, donate to Free Code Camp, but there's no stress to do it just yet. So we're going to be using the clip property to define the visible portions of an element. That's interesting. We're going to use clip with the function rect. And remember, functions come with smooth brackets. So here we're going to say, hey, make the visible portion this rectangle that is one pixel by 1 pixel by 1 pixel by 1 pixel. Then we need to define the clip path. Set the value of to be inset 50%, forming a clip path into a rectangle within the element. So what if we just stop? Well, first of all, I can see that the years have disappeared. Remember, those are the ones that had that class SR only. But what are we doing here? What if I set this to be 20%? Check it out. So we're setting to this to be like, hey, display that clip for about 20% of the element. What about 10? Shows a little more. If we make it 30, shows a little less. See, it's how it's like squaring in on it. 40 still shows a little bit. And then 50 is gone. So it's still in the markup. It's still in the HTML, but we can't see it. Now, you remember in a previous lesson, we did this differently by using position absolute and sending it outside of the visible area. So this is an alternative way of using this. And I think we'll look into clip and clip path after the lesson. In fact, let me write myself a question here. Hey, what was that about clip path? So I've written myself a question that I'll bookmark and come back to. Thank you for bearing with me. Oh, yeah, that looks good. So then we'll need to size those elements down. So we'll have these have a width of 1 pixel and a height of 1 pixel. Now they're no longer pushing out space. Does that look good? Which it does. So we'll keep going. Now we'll prevent the text content from overflowing. So overflow set to hidden, and a white space set to no wrap. Gosh, we're putting a lot of stuff in here. I'm going to make a note of no wrap as well. What about no wrap? Sorry, white space. Stephen P. After my own heart, I wrote down the very same question, and I wrote this question as well. What about white space, no wrap? So we'll bookmark that and come back to it. But yeah, this way we're making sure that these pieces of text with this SR only class are not shown, are only visible to the screen reader. Oh, and now we need to set their position to be absolute, a padding set to 0, and a margin set to be -1 pixel. This will ensure that not only are they not visible anymore, but they're not even in the page view. Cool. Let's keep going. We have a lot of stuff in here. We still haven't looked at pseudo selectors yet, but don't worry, we'll get there. Okay, first things first. Our H1 is going to have a maximum width of 37.25 REM and a margin property set to 0 auto. So left and right margin, did you see it sort of jumped up a little? Hold on, let me show you. Comment it out and comment it back in. By default, H1 does have a bit of margin at the bottom. So we're removing that horizontal, that vertical margin and centering it. But hold on, that doesn't look centered. Well, let's see why. Oh, Nikita's got a question, but we have another row with years which will be read by a screen reader, so the same info will be read twice. Good question. However, hold on, let me bring this up. Look, the div of the years, remember, has ARIA hidden true. I don't know if you remember, we did that at the beginning. This saying, hey, screen readers, don't read this. So these 3 years will actually not show up on the screen reader. Cool. Margin is set to, oh yeah, padding is set to be 1.5 REM vertical and 1.25 REM horizontal. Aha, that looks nicer. Let's keep going. Looks good. Amazing. So now we're going to target our H1 flex. So the flex box inside our H1. We'll set the flex direction property to column reverse. How's that going to look? Not terribly different yet. This will display. Didn't we already do that? Didn't we do that at the beginning? Maybe I removed it, huh? Oh, hold on. Hold on. There we go. Silly me. There it is. Balance widget sheet and Acme widget corp. Then we'll set the gap property to be 1 REM. Nice. Let's keep going. It's time for some pseudo selectors. Cool, let's do it. So our first one is going to be, the first one we use in this lesson is called first of type. So what does that mean? It's going to say, hey, we're going to be targeting the first element that matches the selector of that type. See what that means. Ooh, I like this. So H1, so we're going to target H1.flex span colon first of type. Stephen B is asking, no, it was just assigning a class earlier, which was also kind of confusing to me. I suspect there's a best practice around this, but maybe not, i.e. not naming classes the same as the elements or property values. Yeah, I don't know about best practices. I always get weird about best practices because these change a lot. I would usually not call a class by its property. I would call it something like, well, I would actually skip the whole flex part. I'd just say like, just target the H1, for example. But there's just no consistent way about this. So yeah, right. We're targeting H1, flex, span, and then first of type. Now you might be wondering, where is this being applied? Is it being the first of type H1, the first of type flex? No, it's the first of type span. So this pseudo selector is targeting the span, inside the flex, inside the H1. And we'll see what it means in just a moment. So this selector is going to have a font size set to 0.7 REM. So notice what happened. Balance sheet, Acme Widget Corp. When I targeted the span, let's look at that. Let's look at that HTML again. So where's our H1? Here it is. So inside our H1, we have a flex box. And inside that flex box, we have two spans, Acme Widget Corp and balance sheet. So even if semantically it all makes up one header, we want the screen reader to read out balance sheet first, and then, Acme Widget Corp first, and then balance sheet. Now, because we've targeted the first of type of the spans, that means the Acme Widget Corp is going to be targeted by this. So font size 0.7 REM is going to be applied to the first of the types inside our flex box. Let's look at the preview again. So Mr. Grubro, I'm going to save that question for the Q&A because it is important. So span, first of type, flex font size. Let's remove this font of type, first of type pseudo selector. You're going to see what happens. Now it's being applied to all of them. But if I do it just for first of type, remember, because our flexbox is reversed, even though it's showing the one below to be smaller, in the HTML, this one comes first. Is there a last of type? I think it is, right? Haha. So if we wanted it the other way around, we'd use last of type. Cool. Let's keep going. Let's do, oh, hold on. Oh my goodness. I keep making this mistake. The font size is not 0.7 REM, but 0.7 EM. So why is that different, by the way? Why is REM much smaller than EM? The reason for that is because REM is relative to the base font size of the website. But remember, H1s have a default font size. So EM is relative to the size of the parent element, which is H1. So this is 0.7%, 70% of the base font size. This is 70% of the H1. That passes. Whew. Oh, there it is. Last of type. Cool. Let's apply it. So H1.flex span last of type. So for our last span in our flex box, we're going to set the font size to be 1.2 EM. So that's going to make it bigger. Stephen B., I love you this question. I'm going to save it for a Q&A. Submit and go to the next challenge. So for a section, we're going to set the max width to be 40 REM for a responsive design. Margin is going to be 0 auto. That's going to remove the vertical margin and center it. And the border is going to be set to 2 pixels, solid, D0, 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 D5. So check it out. Now we've got our section nicely wrapped in a border. Cool. Stuff we've done before. Let's keep going. So the last part of our table heading is for years. We'll create a year selector and enable Flexbox. So display flex. We'll justify content to be the end. So that's flex end. Now, I only remember this from having done it recently. I can always recommend, for example, using that CSS tricks guide to Flexbox. I'll paste that in just a sec. And we'll fix it to the top of its container with top 0. Amazing. Oh, make the element sticky. Position sticky. Now, what does position sticky mean? Hold on. I really want to show this. So I'm going to open up my dev tools. So check it out. Yes, check it out. Now that it's sticky, the years are always going to be shown at top. Cool. Let's keep going. Cool. So we'll apply the color. So the text will be white, hashtag FFF. And the background will be 0A, 0A, 23. Nice. It still looks a little bit kind of smushed in the end there, but I bet we're going to make it tidier in just a minute. So we're going to be using the calc function to calculate a value based on other values. Wait, what? So, for example, if we wanted to say, hey, I want you to be 100%, but only missing those last 20 pixels. So let's see what we're doing here. Margin is set to 0, -2 pixels. Negative, please. And the padding. Okay, so first we're going to do top, right, bottom, and left. And remember, that's with the TRBL, or trouble acronym. So first, top, 0.5 REM. Then the right one is going to be calculating 1.5 REM with an additional, and where's our plus? 2 pixels. So no matter what the REM is, I want it to always be 1.5 REM, and add 2 pixels to that. And that we can do with the calculate function. 0.5 REM and 0. It's looking a little nicer. Like it, love it. Did I forget something? Our year selector should have the padding property to set to 0.5, calc 1.25. That's better. Ah, what a relief. So we're going to set the Z index to make sure that it's always on top. 999. This way, if we scroll down and it's still sticky, it won't hide behind the other elements. The bigger the Z index, the more visible it is. The more on top it is. Cool. So we're going to style the text using the span class. There we go. Class selector. So with this, we're going to say, hey, style the spans inside the years elements that have a class. No matter what that class is, if it has a class, style it. So we'll do the font weight bold, a width of 4 REM. I'm going to align that text to the right. It's looking better. It's still not quite on top of the columns, but I bet we'll get to that in a minute. Yeah, we wrapped our tables in the container with a table wrap class. We'll create a selector for that class. So .table-wrap. I'm going to set that padding to be 0.75, 1.5 REM, 0.75 REM. Cool. Now we're seeing it's got a little bit more padding. That looks good. Let's do one more. I'm so glad we got to this one. So before we start diving into the table, our spans element are currently bolded. Right. We want to create a span not SR only selector and give it a font weight property set to normal. This one I'm excited about because when we have a span, right? If we want to select the ones with the SR only class, we'll do this, right? But what if we wanted to select the ones that do not have that class? Then we use a pseudo selector not. So here we're saying, hey, all of the spans that are not SR only will set their font weight to normal. Eh? Check it out. So all of the ones that are not SR only, their font weight is normal. It is normal, right? Did I understand that? Yeah, font weight set to normal. Okay, folks. We'll stop here today. We're going to be looking at the important keyword. And let me give you all some homework because there's a little bit of homework to do, quite a bit of homework today. So all of the lessons that we didn't finish, going to be to finish them. And then tomorrow we'll start with the cat painting. I'm leaving you alone with so much, but I just want to assure you once again that this is self-paced. We are covering so much and it might seem a little overwhelming, but don't worry, we're in this together. We're going to keep going and it's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah? So if you have any doubts, please drop by the Discord. If you have any questions, let me bring up that Discord link again. And remember, like, this is stuff, this is stuff that you're seeing for the first time. It's not going to immediately click, but don't worry, we'll come back to it. We'll make sure everything's happy and easy for you. And practice is going to be super important for this. So one link for Discord, and then we'll do some Q&A, and then I'll let y'all go rest because we've covered so much today. Okay. Oh, hold on. I only posted that on Twitch, and I wanted to post it everywhere. So first question is, how do I make a game like Among Us? I've never made a game, full disclosure, but there are great resources. I think there's a very fun open source that is free to use engine called Godot. That's Godot. Maybe that's a good place to do it. I think they have like courses and stuff. I'll post a link. I've been trying it out, but I'm not very good at it. Cool. Now we'll do question. So how does this make more or less sense for a screen reader? So this is a design choice. We've got our balance sheet and Acme Widget Corp. When we're reading this with a screen reader, we wanted to have Acme Widget Corp read first and then balance sheet. And I believe that this is for context. When you're reading things in order, I don't know about you, but when I'm reading things like on a web page, my eyes are sort of like skimming around. It's like balance sheet. Oh, for what? For Acme Widget Corp, right? On a screen reader, I might be listening. I was like, a balance sheet. Wait, for what? And then I'll read that is for Acme Widget Corp. And so probably the design here is telling us like, hey, screen reader, we actually want you to read the company first, then the balance sheet. Why do it this way? This is, I think, this is a design choice by Free Code Camp. Question for me: what was that about clip path? Let's find out. Where's MDN? Clip path. Clip path. So this allows us to create a clipping region that sets what part of an element should be shown. Okay, this could have helped me yesterday. So for example, this one we have here, we want to show 40% of it in a circle. So what if it's 60? Oh, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, 1. It's just a dot. Yeah. Cool. So there's different ways of applying this. We got ellipse, which is like a semicircle, a polygon, a complicated path. Okay, I don't know why this doesn't work. Ooh, and a complex shape. So that's what clip path is for. So the way we were using it before was to not display the contents of those pieces of text. Another question for me, what about white space, no wrap? Let's take a look. White space. So how white space inside an element is handled. Cool. So we've got the spaces here. So this is how it is when it's normal. What about when no wrap? Oh, so it overflows. Okay, pre-wrap. Oh, it's got like a margin. Pre-line. What's the difference between that and normal? Break spaces. Interesting. So that way we're saying, hey, if there's too much text, because remember we made it no wrap, just keep going. We're not going to look at you anyway, so it's fine. Mr. Grub, oh, this question was great. Why do we sometimes use the bigger than sign, but other times we just say flex span? This is a great question. Mostly to be lazy. So the difference between the bigger than sign and the space is the bigger than says only target the children directly inside. If there's any spans, so in this case, right? If there's a span inside the flex, with the space, it's going to target all of the spans inside the flex, no matter if they're inside other elements. With the bigger than sign, that's going to only target the spans that are direct children of the flex box. Is there an advantage of doing this with pseudo selectors instead of giving each of these spans their own unique IDs? Great question. So the this in this case was, okay, I'm in a very early lesson. Give me one sec. Here we are. Yeah. So your question, Stephen B, is why are we doing it like this when we could do it with an ID? And that's extremely valid. This makes it potentially a little bit more dynamic. We could, in theory, have, actually, why am I doing this when I could do it like this? Hold on. Cool. Now we've got 3 spans. Where's our, here. So we're still targeting those very specific ones. We could use HTML IDs. I think this is, oh, you put it really well, that it was a design, it was a coding style choice. I don't know if there's a best practice here. If I can select them like this, I think I prefer to do it like this. It might look a little wordier, but I like its specificity, like how specific it is. As Cesum says much better than me, there's sometimes more than one valid way to target the elements you want. What if you're adding elements dynamically with JavaScript? Oh, this is getting a little bit ahead. We're going to be doing a JavaScript bootcamp in February. So if you use last of type, it will apply to the last element, even if that element changes. Correct. So the CSS, when JavaScript, we can use JavaScript to dynamically change the content on our website. This is not part of this bootcamp, so don't worry about it too much. But in short, if we're adding stuff dynamically, the CSS will re-render or re-display everything, repaint everything to match that. So yes, last of type, it will apply to the last element, even if that element changes. Cool. I think we had one more question here. Yes, clip on MDN is deprecated. Does FCC include it for legacy code? I'm not sure. Let's have a look. I'll be honest, I haven't had to use clip much. So what does deprecated means? It means that this feature is no longer supported. Even though some browsers might still support it, it has already been removed from the relevant web standards. What does this mean? It sounds scary. What it's saying, hey, you're using this, but know that we no longer make it a requirement for it to work on browsers. So in the future, it's quite likely that you try to use clip and it's not going to work. So as you said, for legacy code, check it out. Where possible, authors are encouraged to use the newer clip path property instead. So clip path is a newer, perhaps better way of saying clip. So what does this mean? It means if we're on a very old browser that doesn't know how to use clip path, maybe clip path is a newer thing. It's gonna, yep, Stephen B got it. Clip is the older version of clip path. That's exactly it. Good to know. Aw, Jess says, 2 of my cats are named after deprecated HTML elements. I'm very cool. And we'll introduce them to class sometime. They are amazing cats, and Jess is indeed extremely cool. So, I've kept y'all long enough. Tomorrow we'll be back to do. Where is it? Oh gosh. I'll just go here. So homework. Do all of these lessons. No, it wasn't that many. There's a bunch that I did here. But yeah, to do as many of these as you can, to take it as easy as you can, and to take a minute to really step back and say, wow, I'm learning a lot. Please understand that it's not going to all click at once. But with time, with practice, with asking questions, it's going to get better. So keep going. All right. Well, that's it for me today. I'll let you all go. We'll have wish you all a wonderful rest of your day. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.